Hello and welcome everyone, it is me, the Lover, also supported Lewis, back for you with another deck profile, and for a change, one that isn't for an event. A month ago, Clockwork Knight came to Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, and before, we dive into the whole month of June, I just wanted to kind of give you guys an update on where I am with the list. So without further ado, let's get into it, I suppose. We're starting the list off fairly nice and simple with 3 copies of Saffron. If you're playing like a Synchro list, this is usually your go-to guy because, usually these have 2 different effects, but I'll be only pointing out the relevant ones. Here, this is the attack position effect. That allows you to, on a soft once per turn, roll a 6-sided die, excavate the top cards equal to the die result, and then you're able to special summon a level 4 or lower Morphtronic from those, ignoring summoning conditions, which, is a bit important, consider talking about the next card. But yeah, this is, of course, something that allows you to generate a great bit of board presence, technically also a target for machine duplication if you want to run that. Personally, not the greatest fan of, like, sort of unsearchable extenders that don't have like other utilities, but we'll get to that when we run down the rest of the list here. So Saffron is absolutely great. Next up, we have Morphtronic Smartphone. This is a level 1 tuner that you can special summon that you have to first special summon by banishing a Morphtronic from the graveyard. This is why the ignoring summoning conditions part on Saffron is important. And similar to Saffron, this rolls a die, excavates your top cards, and then you're able to add a Morphtronic card, which is of course great because it's not only lets you add additional names you can potentially put on the field, but also, gives you access to the spell traps. Converter and Reaper Unit are very good extenders that this deck does want to make use of. And then we have the very infamous one, the Telephone. In attack position, this is basically infinite link material if you have one on field and one on grave, because this also rolls a die. But then you're able to special a Morphtronic from the grave with a level equal to or lower than the result. Since you can't roll lower than a 1 on a 6-sided die, you're always able to special level 1, which is pretty handy since, the most central cards in this deck are all level 1s. And, the defense position effect sometimes comes up. Usually in like Gadget Gamer lines where my only other name is Smartphone, I am usually summoning a Telephone in defense, using the defense position effect, rolling a 6-sided die, excavating the top cards of my deck, and then I am able to potentially send a excavated Morphtronic card from those to the graveyard. Usually just trying to hit a name I can send so that I have a good banish for Smartphone, because that way I can summon the Smartphone back off a Telephone later down the line, which is fairly handy. 3 Remoten, simple attack position effect, targets Morphtronic in the grave, banishes it, and then you add a Morphtronic with the same level from deck to hand. Very, very good at like cycling through all these level 1s, since those are your most central pieces. Having that in there does help you kind of, toolbox through the names essentially, and always get you to the one you need, or just like secure a Reaper Unit discard. Gadget Gamer is probably the highest impact normal the deck has. On normal, this adds a level 1 machine and is able to tribute itself to special Morphtronic from the hand and a Gadget Hauler from the deck. That's why we're running this idiot. Yeah, usually you're grabbing Telephone because it's a tuner that you can also summon off the second effect. But if you don't have, if you already have Telephone, you can easily grab Saffron. And if you already have Telephone and Saffron, you're probably very chilling if you can add a Smartphone off of this. Immediately makes a Power Tool Dragon, which grabs your Reaper Unit, which is essentially an archetypal premature barrier that needs a Morphtronic to discard, needs you to discard a Morphtronic first, which is pretty great. I have the one Fenrir in here just to help a bit with going second, which is usually this deck's natural enemy. And I kind of wanted to load up on, good stuff for that a bit. But I've, again, you can also probably like shave the Fenrir if you just want like big turn 1 wombo combos, and move on with life. The one Fenrir isn't what breaks this list. 2 regulars, something I have really liked playing in multiples, since the TCG list that I recently uploaded, because not only is this a great endboard piece to have like consistent access to, but also something that does help you insulate lines into certain hand traps. After figuring out the lighting situation again, well, Regulus is, again, yeah, pretty cool for being, you know, an endboard piece, insulation against hand traps, and also just like a big idiot in general. I am almost considering going up to 3 because this card is very, very cool. Next up, a 1-for-1 for added consistency and also sort of extension. A Foolish Burial Goods for consistency mainly, because this is able to send Clockwork Knight, which is able to banish itself, discard a card, and add an Earth Machine. So you're able to, you know, grab Gadget Gamer and Cellphone. Sad part is that Foolish Burial Goods is limited in Master Duel, which wasn't great, because this is essentially a TCG list now that is just more inconsistent. Yeah. I suppose that's the world we live in. 3 talents, again, getting into, you know, having like more things for going second. Talents is also insane going first. If you have an additional one, you can usually pitch it for like a Clockwork Knight. So I have not like bricked on these too much, but they felt pretty good to have, you know, for the times when I was going second. 3 Converter, targets a machine. Depending on the battle position, you apply one of the following effects. Most likely going to be using the attack position effect that specials a Morphtronic from the deck with a different name from your target, and then places the target back on top. Something that is great if you're targeting something that is not South-on, because this way you can stack something on top for the South-on to reveal, to immediately reset like a soft once per turn on a monster, which is pretty good. But also, you know, of course, great to just grab like a specific Morphtronic name you might want at like a given point in your lines. A Thrust is here to have more options going second. Again, this could also probably be like a slot where you play like a machine duplication. But in 42, I found Thrust to be like a good thing to have. Maybe you'll find it going second, maybe you don't. But this is also probably far from mandatory, similar to the Fenrir. For the Braver Dragon, the extra 1, a Metal Silver Armor, a Super Magic Sword of Raptness, and a Life Extreme. This makes it so that your opponent has to target the Braver if they want to target a monster on the field or graveyard with a card effect. The Raptness makes it untargetable, so you're kind of locking your opponent out of those targeting effects. And the Life Extreme makes the Braver essentially 4k in combat if it battles another monster, or gives it that, you know, sweet quick effect pop I like to talk about, where you use the Braver to change a monster's battle position, and then on a new chain the Life Extreme will trigger because a monster's battle position was changed to pop a card on the field. I'm on 3 Clockwork Knights to at least get some value out of this card, because this way with the Link 1, if you draw Clockwork Knight, it's at least an extender. Because you can oftentimes activate it, make the Link 1, send it, add another, banish the first one from the grave, discard the one you just added, and then grab like extension in the form of Smartphone, or potentially something that insulates your lines like a Regulus, which is pretty nice. Really have been liking 3 Clockwork Knights in this deck. 2 Caught by the Grave. Hand traps are this deck's worst enemies, so like having good options against those are pretty nice, and Forbidden Droplet as like a very flexible board breaker, to, you know, help going second a bit more. Extra deck is fairly straightforward, I would say. An Earphone here to be able to ladder into Nurturia Beast and to have something that you continuously equip back to your Braver Dragon so you don't run out of things to use as ammunition for that. Nurturia Beast because it's a walking IO. Musashi and Chart Warrior here because I copy and pasted a TCG list I put together recently. And I really like to have those to ladder into Power Tool Dragon when you're not in a line that makes Gadget Gamer. For those two were pretty good. Musashi adds you back a machine from the grave, but you need to be careful because you can't summon the one you add back the turn if you have a spell trap in the grave, because this is a super heavy samurai. And Stardust Charge Warrior is just a free draw along the way. Power Tool Dragon again is the main thing you'll be making off a Gadget Gamer. That will be adding you a repair unit. Stardust Dragon is here for, you know, lines where you can navigate the lines in a way to have an Excelsior Stardust Dragon with a level 1 tuner left on the board, so you can make a Braver that is technically immune to Nibiru, which is kind of cool. Yeah, Excelsior Stardust here is to make Braver. Then we have the Clockwork Knight, again, you know, takes a non-link machine with 1,000 or less attack, which is basically 90% of the deck's monster lineup. On-link summon sends a con spell, adds a Clockwork Knight, and you can target a machine with 1,000 or less attack and grave. Tribute a machine except this card if you do special summon the target in defense. Sometimes this does come in handy, recurring like a remote and potentially even gadget gamer, to just get like a guy on the field traded out for something you can better use for synchro plays. Platinum Gadget here to help with extension and get guys out of your hand. IP Masquerader is something to make on your end board, to go into SP. Pit Knight early, just a neat thing to be doing if you get disrupted, because, you know, she's fairly sturdy. And Apolos is here because she's good, and Goddess is here because I am rarely religious, but I'm religious for her. Since this is Master Duel, you can probably cut, like, you know, one of these two, depending on which you feel like comes up less for a Baron de Fleur. And in a similar notion, you can probably, you know, also shave early or one of these two for a Typhon, because you're going to be seeing Typhon in one of the replays I have prepared. So with, you know, that very smooth transition out of the way, let's get into those. Well, we are not going first. Funnily enough, did end up with two replays where I'm going second for this one. Hitting the speed up button, opponent is going up on some off on some Primite stuff. Hand is looking fine for me going second. Again, the thrust probably coming in clutch here. Opponent is apparently on Blue Eyes. Goes raw for another Blue Eyes. Spirit summons back another Blue Eyes. Makes a Seals here before ending their turn, summoning a Blue Eyes off of their Lordly Load to turn the Drill Beam live as we draw into a Garnet. We go Burial Goods, Clockwork Knight, discard Telephone, so I can, you know, special the smartphone and like kind of have a way to extend here that isn't, you know, essentially bound to my normal summon. Opponent Drill Beams the Gadget Gamer after revealing a right arm as I go to banish the Telephone for Smartphone here to put that on the board. Don't hit, make a Clockwork Knight. Smartphone here reveals a bunch of cards. Is able to trade the Smartphone in for a cell phone that I just added, and we can still resolve the Gadget Gamer effect here on a later point in time. As I go to SP the back row, my opponent changes safe zone, which I'd rather not deal with, to which I just promptly tag out my SP, but sadly that gets destroyed at the end of this chain off of the safe zone. Opponent gets a Hieratic Seals trigger, summons a Jet Dragon, as you know you do, while I can keep going off with a cell phone. After a great reveal that is Telephone, I can just keep, you know, assembling guys, because, you know, Telephone summons back cell phone once again triggers because it's soft once per turn, and is able to just keep putting guys onto the field. Making an Underworld Goddess here with a Jet Dragon, because otherwise I don't really have a clean way to get over that idiot. Opponent goes to add back their Primite Dragon Ether Barrel here, setting another Primite card, which I believe was a Raw, as they go to Verte make Dragoon. Dragoon attempts to pop the Goddess twice, which doesn't really work, so they have to negate one of their own cards with a Dragoon to get over this Goddess without trading immediately for their Dark Dragoon. As you can probably tell, I selected this replay purely because it's absolutely ridiculous. Remoten gets summoned here, turned into Sky Crisis after adding a Telephone for the follow-up, which, you know, immediately deals with a Dragoon, punches over the Verte, as my opponent gets to pass back. Passed back to here. Ether Barrel once again adds itself back as they go for a Raw, declaring Blue Eyes, no Blue Eyes left in deck. Ether Barrel gets summoned, is absolutely massive, I believe, due to Lordly Load because of the amount of vanillas they have in their grave. As they summon back a Jet Dragon, put a Blue Eyes in defense on the board, and make a Tyrant Dragon here. Life is not looking good right now, but there's a funny thing about to happen. As I go to normal summon a Telephone, rolling a 5, summoning back a Telephone, rolls high enough to get me to a Remoten, which I then use to add a copy of Smartphone, and things are going to get silly very fast here as I go for a Platinum Gadget. Not using the effect because the important thing is the out is in the extra. A smartphone is summoned, turn into a Pit Knight early, and I think we can all see where this is going with my opponent on 1600 life points exactly. Well, sometimes you get to steal games you probably should not be winning, just on the basis of your opponent not thinking that you could be on a card as wacky as Pit Knight early. But yeah, with that out of the way, I do have a second replay for you guys to showcase. Once again, going second. I know I'm not showing the crazy combos, but you know, there might be a video on this channel if you want to see the crazy combos. Well, we are once again going second with a very good opener that... I'm seeing a pattern here. That contains the one of thrust. Opponent's going off on, oh my god, yes, I love Ray. Turning Ray and Rose here into a Camellia, using that to dump Engaged, making a Kagari, adding back Engaged, making a Shizuku, using the Engaged to grab a Widow Anchor, and then setting 2 and using the Shizuku here in the end phase to grab an Afterburner before passing back to me. It's a very loaded hand for going second, admittedly, so let's make the best of it. Normal summoning remote in here turns into Clockwork Knight, which does the thing, and sends the Clockwork Knight for, you know, attempting to add on the Clockwork Knight, but we get ashed in the process. Summoning Smartphone here by banishing the remote, and I just want to, you know, put things on the field and, you know, lower this guy's resources before dropping the regulars, because in a simplified game state, having the ability to just drop an Omni on the opponent is pretty damn potent. Use the talents here to shuffle back that card in hand. I think this is a situation where you could also just easily draw. SP banishes the Ray out of their graveyard before, you know, putting the regulars on the board, punching over the Shizuku and passing back to my opponent, which is now top decking into an Omni and SP. Which is a pretty good situation for me until they reveal a Lightning Storm. But at least, you know, I can SP tag both out to the end phase, since regulars can also send itself from the field to Omni something. As I banish the cell phone here for a smartphone, hoping I hit, because I could really use a hit here. I don't, at which point I decide, okay, we're punching here. Don't make a Braver main 2, because my opponent can't really, you know, do anything into this board, and I can get value off of the smartphone on the follow-up anyways. Opponent probably not top decking into the hottest stuff, scooping here to this setup. But yeah. Even if I did not get to showcase the very crazy combos, I am pretty certain that you will find a video on this channel somewhere that has those. You know, if you're looking for those sealed only, not sealed only, but the Morphtronic rank grind is probably a good place to stop. Otherwise, yeah, Clockwork Knight's in Master Duel, and still an absolutely amazing piece for this deck. Again, huge fan of the 3 Clockwork Knight for extension. That also enables you to have follow-up, which is kind of cute. And just a good card to have. The only annoying thing about that whole package is that the deck's slightly more inconsistent than in the TCG due to the limit of Foolish Burial Goods. But maybe they remember that this card probably doesn't do a whole lot if you're not exactly sending, like, you know, tier spells and traps. So that's, I guess, something to look out for. But yeah, with all that out of the way, while you're watching this, I am probably suffering my way through the first portion of the first event that is happening this month. Expect a deck profile for that probably towards the start of the next week. Yeah, things are a bit delayed. Channel's turning into a bit of a slowpoke meme. It is what it is, you know. But yeah, with all that out of the way, I will be thanking you very much for watching, and I'll be seeing you guys again next time. But until then, goodbye.